Today we have Matt McCuistion with Briargate Taekwondo. Can you tell us a little bit about your business and what you do?
Yeah, so I own a martial arts school in the Briargate area, Briargate Taekwondo. We teach quality martial arts. It's Kukiwan, which is a world standard for Taekwondo, is the international standard. So everybody who ranks up through our school is that same rank around the world, not just solely at our school.
That's awesome, man. So how did you get started in this? Let's peel it back a little bit. Like, what got you into Taekwondo?
Yeah, so grew up in a rough neighborhood in California. We were a second-story apartment on a corner of a busy intersection, so it was a prime real estate for some gangs that we had in the neighborhood, drug dealers, things like that. It just wasn't a safe place. So it wasn't safe to play outside. It wasn't safe to go do things with friends. So eventually my parents were able to get me into Taekwondo for self-defense. And it was a shock for me then, and started making my way through it. And we moved shortly after that to Colorado. Came here to Colorado Springs, and then I started up training Taekwondo in 95 here in the Springs.
That's awesome. Where in the Springs were you, like, when you first moved here? So it's 95. I mean, obviously the Springs was completely different even back then.
Mm-hmm.
Did you live in like the South part, or did you live still in the Briargate area?
We were a little bit on the west side. We moved into an apartment there, and my dad was working really hard to kind of move us up and give us some good opportunities, move us to a good school district. So he put a lot of pressure on himself to do that, and he made that happen. So in keeping with the Taekwondo, we were able to do that as well.
That's awesome. What school did you go to?
So I ended up graduating from District 12, Cheyenne Mountain.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But we started District 11 since we were on the west side, going to Andrew Jackson Elementary.
I gotcha, man. That's awesome. Talk to me about like you going up in Taekwondo. I mean, I don't know too much about like the belt structure and everything like that, but like you said at first it was kind of a shock when you first went there and started doing Taekwondo. Like, describe yourself as a child. Like, were you more timid at first, and then like did it help like instill discipline? I know we talked a little bit about that before we started shooting.
Yeah, so I was a pretty shy kid. I didn't talk a lot. I was very quiet, reserved. I was already disciplined, obedient, all that stuff, respectful. So when it came to some of the things in Taekwondo, it wasn't necessarily a thing that helped me. After all, I was going there for self-defense. I wasn't going there for my character necessarily, or just get better at listening to mom and dad. So there were certain things where I'd have to pay attention, and if I didn't pay attention, then I'd get swat on the feet. And the master had this bamboo sword, and the bamboo sword has like shards of bamboo. So when it comes together, it pinches. So you'd lift up a foot, you'd smack you on the bottom foot. It was super painful. You got a lot of nerve endings, and so it would hurt. And then like, okay, now the other foot. So you have to stand on the foot that you get hit with, and then you get hit again, right? So it's like, well, that's no fun. And that was the thing. So that's how they were teaching us to be more aware of our surroundings. So while we're focused on doing something, now we're having to pay attention to what's going on around us at the same time. So, I mean, that ended up being a good thing, but training that in a kid who's is not expecting it. It's like, why am I getting hurt? I don't like coming here and getting hurt, or starting to spar, and like kids would just repeatedly kick me in the shins. I'm like, so painful until stop being painful, So some of those things, it just brought on a lot of pain, and it took a while for me to realize what some of that stuff was. Taekwondo's changed a lot since the early days. We're not, no one's allowed to like hit children or anything like that, even though some parents probably be okay with it. Yeah. But yeah, there's better ways to teach discipline and respect.
Yeah, that's so crazy. And like, so how did you find yourself becoming an owner and like having that inspiration to own one of your own?
Yeah, so I continued my Taekwondo journey through what we call like a Bodan or a black belt eligible. It was literally the rank right before testing for a black belt. All I had to do was test for a black belt. by that time I was in high school, and I started getting into some of the other sports, and started moving away from Taekwondo just because of like timing and commitments and stuff like that. So I ended up taking a break. Both my sister and I, we were both doing Taekwondo together. We both took a step back, and I didn't resume it till after high school and college, and I came back. And one of the great things about our program is that we had a guarantee of our rank. So we had already paid for a guaranteed black belt, and even though I was coming back, I think it was like 7 years later, I was able to train for free. So I'm like, hey, I'll come back and do this, no hurry to get my black belt, just train, learn everything again. And everything had changed in the world of Taekwondo from when I was doing it as a kid, and then coming back as an adult. I'm like, man, where'd all the form go? Where'd the discipline go? These kids are out of control,
Yeah.
And
we'd like to take a quick break to thank our sponsor, Planet Duct. Let me tell you what, these guys, they've got some powerful equipment. Their fleet of air duct cleaning trucks are equipped with some of the most powerful vacuums you've ever seen. I mean, these whole trucks, the entire truck, is one giant vacuum itself. With their expertise and equipment, they not only get the job done, they get the job done right to maximum efficiency. And you don't want to be breathing in nasty air from having dirty air ducts or having inefficient airflow, so get your ducts clean with Planet Duct right now. Visit planetduct.com. If you're from Colorado Springs, then you've probably seen our next sponsor driving up and down Academy or at any of their other 3 locations here in Colorado Springs and in Pueblo. El Super Taco has authentic Mexican food with locally sourced and fresh veggies and meat that is chopped daily. Be sure to check them out next time you're hungry, and mention the podcast too. I mean, we don't got a code for you, but definitely mention it. Power Tool Safe has a vision to help fight against theft. They've developed technology to help you keep proper records and are building a community of awareness around stolen goods. Sign up today for a free account and register up to $10,000 in tools and equipment. No credit card required. It's as easy as setting up a Facebook account. Imagine having a team of marketing professionals working for your business, making sure that you get the awareness and sales that you deserve. Well, that's exactly what you get with Recon Marketing. With up to 35 plus years in experience and 10 million plus in managed budgets, they know exactly what it takes to put you on the radar. And our final sponsor is my company, Vement Visuals. We produce videos with passion and strong meat. Our goal is to innovate and push the boundaries of what's possible when it comes to creating powerful visuals that drive results, whether that be in business or in life. From documentaries to YouTube videos to social media content, commercials that are designed for television, 3D animations, and so much more.
And so it was different. The system was different. The belt system was different. The curriculum had changed. And like there's a lot of things that we're doing now, and some things were for the better. Taekwondo had actually become something more where we're focused on character discipline. So now we want to work on becoming a better version of ourselves. So that was something that I was happy about, because those middle years I was working a lot on myself. So I went through a lot of rough stuff as a child. I was rejected by a lot of people. I felt rejected by my parents a lot of the times. My parents, I was the firstborn, so they didn't know what best to do, and sometimes made some mistakes and caused some damage, not intentionally, but I think all parents do. And so we carry those things on, and I faced a lot of bullying through the school system, wherever we were, if it was in California or we moved here, and it was just rough. So I spent a lot of time in isolation, but not by choice. And some of the stories I could remember, I remember 6th grade, I'd try to go make friends and sit with friends during lunchtime, and every time I'd sit with somebody, they'd all get up, move away. And no matter how many times I'd try to go and sit with somebody, be with people, they'd always get up and move away. So I was forced into a lot of isolation. And then by high school, then I had just put up my walls. Like I stopped trying, I wasn't going to fall into the wrong crowd, because at the bottom of things, I had a good heart. I cared for people. I had value for people. So I wasn't going to go hurt people just to be accepted by others. So I did have that opportunity to become one of the bullies, to become someone that was abusive towards others. And I just like, I'm not going to do that. That person didn't do anything to me. It doesn't make any sense. So, I chose that, and in a way I chose my isolation. And then I put up all these walls so nobody could really get in or understand who I was. But it developed a lot of anger. And feeling so alone, that's also kind of where I'd found God. And that was my big thing. And, God isn't something that I shy away from, because really that was the only thing that kind of kept me going. God was the one that heard me. He talked to me. Like, I heard his voice audibly, and I didn't know it was his voice until many years later. I just kind of trusted that it was him. And he was training me in things in my teenage years. He was showing me like why people act the way they do, what things really mean. And it taught me a lot. So growing through that stuff, I had to overcome a lot of things, especially coming out of high school, all that isolation, having like no social skills. Like, I had to grow those things. I think people would look at me today and it's like it would be impossible for them to imagine me as I was when I was a kid. And I'm just so different now, but it's because I've worked on so many different things as a part of me. And then I remember one day, I'm sitting there talking with God. We'd have like our conversations whenever I was driving around doing my job as a CNA at the time.
Oh,
and
CNA.
I was a CNA. So yeah, home health care, and I drive between visits. So I remember very, very vividly, he goes, well, all this stuff that I've been teaching you, it's not for you. And I was like, oh crap. So he was calling me into leadership. He had been calling me into leadership, and I had been running away from it because I didn't want to be in the spotlight. I spent all that time where people ignored me. So it's like, they're not going to follow me. They don't listen to me. They don't know I exist. So, and God was like, I'm still calling you. And even when I was doing home health care, and I was going to school full time, it's like I didn't have interaction with people. I was too busy to have interaction with people at that time. But I could see how my actions were influencing others, and God showed that to me. It's like some of the results I didn't like. I didn't like what other people were doing. I saw myself in other people in the ways that I didn't want it. And, it became very clear to me. It's like, well, you don't have a choice if you're going to be a leader. The only choice you have is if you're going to be a leader for good or bad. And I'm like, well, I don't want to lead people astray. I don't want people to have worse lives because of me or because I'm angry or something like that. So, I need to become better for other people. And that's kind of opened the doors for my leadership journey. I'm like, okay, well, I need to get better in these certain things. And I started picking up books and acquiring different skills. And it's like, I didn't even know where to start. I didn't have a mentor. I'm just like picking up some book about different aspects of a leadership. And I'm like, well, I need to learn more about business. I need to learn about communication. Like, I don't know how to get my point across. Like, I don't know how to listen well. Like, so I needed to work on all those skills. And then coming back into Taekwondo, we had that character aspect where we could grow people. Well, I went through a bunch of stuff. So now I got to share with others my experiences. And even though maybe I didn't come out on the positive end of it, or at least not at first, so I could help people, right? And I can say, well, this is kind of how you avoid that, or this is how you deal with this, or, this is how you think about this situation, and I was like, I like this. Well, I could help people avoid some of these pains that I went through. It's like I can save them, right? And that was my mindset early on. I was like, I can save people. And so definitely still have a Superman complex. I think I could save everybody in the world, but can't,
Yeah.
People kind of have to save themselves.
Yeah, they have to want to, right?
Yeah, they have to want to. So before I really stepped into Taekwondo in a professional role, I was called in to doing some real estate work. My dad did mortgages, and my family was struggling financially. And a couple situations came up, and I was trying to help my family out while I was going to school, and it just wasn't enough. I couldn't trade enough hours for dollars. And so I'm like, I got to do something else to help my family. And so I thought, well, why don't I get into the other end of what my dad's doing? I'll get into the property side. And so I jumped into that, started doing really well, and that really forced me to get out of my bubble.
Yeah.
Now it's like, if I don't talk to people, like I don't eat. It's like, I really like to eat.
Yeah, I feel that.
So it's like, well, I have to, and I have to do it on a daily basis. I have to get uncomfortable. It's like, I have to insert myself into groups. I got to start talking. And so kind of what I found out about myself was that I'd consider like a closet extrovert. It's like I was always an extrovert. I just didn't know it.
Yeah.
Right.
It was all pent up.
Yeah. It's like I always really wanted to be around people, but I was just so accustomed to rejection that I just stopped trying, And so it's just a learned behavior. It's like I was meant to be like this. So that was a good thing there. And I was working my real estate, and my dad ended up coming down with colon cancer.
Oh, no, man.
And because I had some medical experience, I decided to take care of him. Well, that took me away from my real estate business, and I didn't have really business background. So I wasn't concerned about filling my pipeline with leads or clients or closings or things like that. So my business dried up, and I didn't have any money coming in, and I had responsibilities. And so I remember looking for something else, and I was like, well, maybe Taekwondo can use me. And I went to my master at the time, and I said, hey, I just need to make some extra money. Could you use me as an instructor in the class? And I just want to be responsible to my bills. And he goes, okay. And he ended up hiring me as an enrollment director. So he was kind of wearing all the hats at that time for his business. And he's like, well, you've had some experience growing your business. Now come help me grow mine. I'm like, okay. So I went in as enrollment director, and I started learning about the business. Didn't get as much training as I would have liked, but a lot of the stuff I went out and sought on my own. Reading books on it, learning my sales skills, learning how to talk with people, how to figure out the needs that we need to meet in our program. And so I started doing pretty well at that. And so my boss was happy with it. We started going into some of the local elementary schools, doing some after-school programs, bringing them Taekwondo, because a lot of people don't really understand what it is. And as we're more getting into MMA was starting to explode, and a lot of parents, they think of Taekwondo or martial art, and they think of, well, my kid's going to just learn how to be physical with others. They're going to hit and punch and kick and bite and all this stuff. And that's not what we do. So the funny thing about martial arts is the more you know, the less you use. Yeah. But that's not intuitive. They think the more you know, the more you do. So it's really interesting that way. And so we would bring them the character aspects of what we're doing. We would teach these kids how to say yes, sir, yes, ma'am to mom and dad, how to follow what they're saying the first time. And there was something magical about it in that we could align ourselves with the parents, right? And these parents were doing the best they could, and a lot of them are doing a great job. So I'm not saying the parents are doing a bad job or anything like that. They're doing a great job, but here we have a third party coming in and saying, like, hey, you should clean your room. And they're like, that's a good idea. I'm going to do that. And their parents are like, I've been telling them for years, and you say it one time and they're doing what you say. Yeah. It's like, yeah, we're on your side. Right. And so all these things, like we can explain to them, it's like why having a dirty room has an effect on their mind being cluttered and their thoughts being cluttered. And they're like, oh yeah, Mom, you said something like that to me. It's like, Mom goes, mm-hmm. It's like, great, that partnership's working really well. So we start to see
great.
these kids making some huge strides, like pretty quick. I meet with them the first time and I'll get feedback like that same day. They're doing things like they're excited. And so that's what Taekwondo started to become for me. So I started more in a role of helping somebody else grow their business, and then over time, learning the skills, getting better, and eventually getting to a point of owning my own school.
That's so incredible, man. And you have a couple things that I wanted to talk to you about, but one of them was commitment to excellence.
Mm-hmm.
I've been an entrepreneur for over 10 years now, but the last job I did have had something called execution excellence. And what that meant is that no one's ever too good to do anything. So if you're in a restroom and the toilet paper's out, you replace the toilet paper. I don't care if you're the CEO to whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has a commitment to excellence. If somebody who's right next to you normally and they're out and they're sick, they're absent, and their phone's ringing all day, you answer their phones for them, or the person to your left or your right. And I love that. So like, tell us a little bit more about commitment to excellence.
Yeah, so I believe in doing everything to the best of my abilities, and that's how I would describe excellence. So I'm not saying excellence is perfection or even fixing everything. It's like I'm not out there to fix everything. I just want to do what I do the best that I can. And so the excellence thing, when I was talking about having to become a better person for all these people, it's like, well, they need a better leader. So I need to be better. So I need to learn these skills. I need to overcome my stuff. I need to learn how to overcome things that I haven't dealt with yet. And so that's where the excellence really began. I always felt a core value is like being fair to people. It's not taking advantage, not being taken advantage of, but being fair. And so I felt like if they're going to pay me for something, that I needed to give them like a really good return on what they were getting. So excellence in my business now is, first off, we work on form. So we have certain techniques, and having an international standard, all these things are written down. They're all in like a textbook. There's certain measurements that we have for our techniques, and it's an art. So there's lines, there's dynamics, there's timing, and my students are learning that. They learn them at different stages as they're going along. They kind of build a foundation and build on top of that. But when it comes to excellence, we can't rush it, right? My students, they have to know the curriculum. I want them to not just know how to punch and kick, but why they're punching and kicking. Why a certain block works, or why a certain stance is the way it is. Like, well, back stance isn't for attacking, it's for defending. And here's what you can do out of back stance. And so they're like, oh, okay, well, that makes more sense. And that allows them to think more why they're bending this knee more than that knee, putting more weight back than forward. And they're less likely to keep making the same mistakes over and over. Well, before we broke off from our old school, we were just testing too quick. About every 2 months we were testing, and it was just so fast. Some of the kids and students could do really well in it, and a lot of them did, but a lot of students just got left behind, or they're just kind of pushed through the system. They're not ready, but they're doing it. And
the testing's for like belts?
For new ranks, yeah, new belts.
Okay.
And so for a lot of the kids, all of a sudden we weren't requiring them to know the whole form anymore. It's like, well, just kind of do your best, and if you can get halfway through, it's like, that's good enough. I was like, it's not good enough. Like, there's an international standard for a reason. Like, let's not lower the standard for the kids. Let's elevate the kids, right? So we take more time. So we test about every 3 months. So we removed one test out of our year cycle. So 3 months. So we really get to dive in. We really get to understand the form, the application of the form. And so that's where the excellence comes in terms of technique. We also have excellence coming in terms of goal setting and our black belt philosophies. So our character building is really, really important to me. So I really want them to work hard at everything that they're doing. Well, we start off with some simple goals in respect and learning how to set goals. So they need to, one, know what something means. Two, they need to know what they want. They have to be able to set the goal, and they have to create a plan for that goal. So when they create a plan, it's not, great, I heard it, you're good. And I'm like, no, write it down. All right. And if you're too young to write it down, mom and dad are going to help you write it down. Okay. And so it was a partnership with mom and dad anyway. So they're helping them write it down, or the kids are writing it down on their own. It's like, okay. And now we need to think about our weaknesses. Where are we falling short in this? Where do I need to work harder on this than other areas? There's times in my life where it's easy to listen to mom and dad. And there's other times in my heart where it's really hard or impossible to listen to mom and dad. That's what we need to set up some tactics for. We need to plan around those things when it's not hard. That way we can still be in control when our head isn't, right? And so these kids are learning this, and mom and dad are like, this is awesome, or even learning things about their kids that they didn't know. And we have various values. We've swapped some of them out when we changed our school. So we aligned ourselves with some more Christian values. So our students are learning more about humility and compassion, which is fantastic. They're learning how to be more considerate of others, and not early on. First off, they got to learn about themselves. Mm-hmm. But as we continue on through the ranks, they move higher and higher. Then, they got to learn more about others. They learn more about reading things and other people who are struggling, people who are hurting, and maybe not taking something as a personal attack, but maybe this person is hurting, and maybe I need to ask them some questions instead of feeling hurt by their words, right? So we change the focus a little bit. But when it comes to the excellence, they're going to have excellence in their goals. I keep them on their goals. They have to turn in their goals in writing to me, so I review them. And if they're not adequate goals, then I'm like, I'm sorry, here's what we need to work on our goal. So we work together with the students to overcome these challenges that they're facing. Yeah.
That's so incredible, man. Do you think that, like, rewinding the time back and looking at when you first joined up in Taekwondo, and the things that you wanted maybe from your specific Taekwondo class, have you instilled that in your classes specifically? Maybe the things you didn't get when you're a child? Because it seems like it's a really good recurring theme for you, for them not only to be, great at Taekwondo, but to be great people too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Taekwondo, when I was a kid, it wasn't what it is now. So I think I'd said that before, but what it was back then, Taekwondo was a new Olympic sport. This thing was growing like crazy, and everybody was trying to get into the Olympics. So the name of the game was sparring. So we were always like kicking each other. We'd throw some pads on, we'd be kicking each other, and trying to get better at our sparring skills. We don't do that so much now. Sparring's growing a bit more in our schools and locally, but now the focus has shifted a lot more for the better, and not just Taekwondo, but I want to say all martial arts. Now the focus of martial arts is to make our students better. And that's really where you see the difference in some of the schools. Like, you want to make students better. It's not about me being better or me being important. It's about my students being better. And I want my students to be better than me. I want my students to avoid certain travesty that I've had to go through. It's like I want them to have good decision-making skills. And when they really want something, they're going to set a goal for it, and they're going to plan for it. And if they fail, it's okay. But they're going to have the necessary steps and be resourceful enough to make a new plan, make some new tactics, get some help outside of themselves so they can really do whatever they want in life.
That's so incredible. It sounds like you have a big passion not only for your students and everything, but your community. You were talking about, you being in line with the parents, which as a parent, that's like the best thing ever, right? To have somebody who has a lot of the same beliefs and ideologies and, mindset. So when you leave your kids off to them, you know that your kid's going to be around a great role model. Where does that passion for the community come from?
Passion for the community? I think where that really comes from for me is being rejected by everybody. And eventually learning, like I was saying, it's like I learned a lot of this stuff talking to God. And God said to me, it's like, well, all these people rejected you, but you don't have to give them the same thing back. Mm-hmm. It's like, I've accepted you. I've taught you how to accept. Now you go accept others. And so I went out and I just started accepting people and just not trying to change them. I'm just trying to understand them. I'm trying to understand how they're special, right? Everyone's special. That's my belief. Like, everyone's awesome, right? In their own way. Maybe not all the time, but yeah, everyone's special. So I'm curious. I want to learn about these people. I want to learn what makes them tick. And so I just invite them into my life. I accept them.
And it doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter what age they are. And even if we don't get along, like, I'm still trying to understand. It's like, okay, well, I don't speak the same language you do, and I need to understand you better. So let me get on more on your level for this. So acceptance is the number one thing. If I can accept anyone who comes in my door,
it's an amazing thing. It makes them feel welcome. Some of these kids, that's what they need. It's probably the number one need without people realizing it or voicing it. I volunteer at my church with the youth, and one of the questions that we had was like, what's something that we as leaders can help you guys in your walk with Jesus? And the kids didn't have good answers. I mean, you're asking them on point. Some of them really need to go back and think. But I was like, well, let me give you what my answer would have been. It's like, I just wanted to be accepted. I didn't want to be changed. I didn't want to be turned into something that I wasn't ready for. Like, I just wanted to be listened to. Like, I wanted to feel special about something. Just accept me. And the kid's just like, yeah, that's what I want.
That's so awesome, man. And like, especially in the Christian religion, I'm Christian as well.
Mm-hmm.
They talk a lot about the testimony, right? And I feel like that test of having that early on of people not people accepting you
mm-hmm.
is very challenging. And but it's part of your testimony. And I feel like that bleeds into your business now and teaching these kids the right way, how to think about others, but think about themselves first. You got to fill that cup up first, and then being able to take care of and think of others, be courteous of others is so important. So how long have you been doing your business on your own?
On my own? So I was helping my previous school. I was helping them grow, and that was 3 years. About 3 years I was running that.
Yeah.
And so I took that business from losing money, and then we were making probably $300,000 a year, and I was not making much money at the time, and I was salary. So mm-hmm. the more I worked, the less I made, and my ideas were hurting me more than helping me because I didn't have the support I needed either.
Right.
And I don't think my boss was trying to be bad or anything. I think he was getting comfortable,
mm-hmm.
right? I was taking care of all these things, and I saw where our business was not doing well, and I tried to step in. He's like, oh, hey, that's a little too important. That's still mine. And so I would do it without asking.
Really?
I would do it without asking. So I was just in charge of introducing people to Taekwondo, getting them started, teaching like the beginner classes, and then he was in charge of upgrading them, and that's where our students would go, make a longer commitment. They'd want to become a black belt. And well, he had a lot of really great people skills, a really awesome guy. He didn't close a lot of them, right? He wasn't good at that for his business. So I tried stepping in, and eventually one day, I sold one over the phone. So without somebody being there, being in person, going over numbers, talking about the value and all that stuff, I sold it over the phone. And then I told him, and he goes, oh, well, I guess you can handle this. So yeah, you can take over this. And so we ended up doing a lot better there. But I never got a raise. I was always told to hold on. We're not quite there. And, after 3 years and breaking my back, I was losing my passion, right? I'm like, well, I'm not seeing the benefits. I just working myself harder. It's like, I'm starting to not care about the kids as much, or it's like he wasn't going to classes as much. I'm like, well, I had to stop selling him and I had to start selling me. And well, it wasn't a bad thing. Like it's not what I wanted or not how I wanted to do it. So eventually I had to step away from it. I had to leave. So and then that allowed me to work more on my real estate business, and now I have business experience. And part of that time was me understanding that while I wasn't earning like lots of money or anything like that, I was working for a skill. It's like getting a free MBA out of my time working there. I was learning how to work a business, but it wasn't my money, right? So if I failed, I wasn't personally affected with it. But also if I succeeded, I wasn't personally affected by it. So I was learning those skills at that time. So I'm grateful for that. But growing my business, I did really well with real estate, top in my office and things like that. And then people would come to me, students would come to me, families would come to me and say, hey, such and such is going on at the school. It's like, we really need your help. Hey, such and such. So they just kept reaching out. It's like, and then I'd go, and then the grandmaster would come and he'd be like, hey, come back and work for me. And I was like, well, it's an honor, sir. It's like, he was the number 2 Taekwondo guy in the world. Like, wow. He's a fantastic guy in my perspective. And he just had a lot of wisdom and insight and the way that he can connect with people and inspire them. It was pretty awesome. And it's like, well, when I do well with this job, you're going to retire again. And I'm going to work for your son. And I don't like your son. Mm-hmm. And I was honest because I didn't want to work. I didn't want to work for him. Right. And so I had no problem being honest. And like, I know he's your son, but just know I don't like him.
Fair enough.
And so he's like, okay. And then, the people would still keep coming to me, hey, so-and-so's leaving. And so a lot of times I was the first to know, not my old boss, not any of the staff. I was the first to know things. I wasn't there. I was working on my other business. Mm-hmm. And so it was hard for me to walk away and watch this school crumble, right? It's like I built that. And it's like to watch it crumble. It's like it was hard. It's like I started a lot of those students, and they had grown because of me, and some of them were falling apart because I wasn't there. They weren't getting the kind of touch that they needed, that inspirational touch, that encouragement. They weren't getting that anymore. Now they're just kind of in the system, and for better or worse. So anyway, the opportunity did finally come about where the Grandmaster and I were talking. I keep thinking he'd call me into his office to talk about real estate and buying the next location. Mm-hmm. And it's like, maybe we'd talk about that a little bit, but he was really there to bring me back in. And he's done this, I guess, to quite a few people, as I've come to realize over time. And he's really good at it. He just has a way of like, you just don't say no to the guy. Yeah. He just has that way. He's a very strong presence. So I learned a lot of things from him, but at the same time, I was also able to be very honest with him. And the opportunity came about. It's like, well, why don't you be a school owner? We could do like profit sharing. Like, you start doing well and we'll do a profit share. We'll do like 50-50. I said, sir, honestly, if I'm making enough money, I know I need more staff. We're growing. We're going to need more help. It's like, I got to keep all of that. And he goes, okay, I wasn't expecting that answer. You can keep it all. And I'm like, so we talked about buying one of the locations, and it wasn't the location that I went to him for. So the one that I had built, that's the one kind of where my heart was. Mm-hmm. And he's like, hey, I've got a better opportunity for you though. Here's this other school, this other location, and it's not doing well. And here I am, a little bit more business savvy, looking at the demographics. I was like, okay, we got better demographics. I see where things are slipping through the cracks, and we could be doing better. And it doesn't take that much more effort to get them to that next level. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I see opportunity there. So we decided to move forward on that, and I became really the first owner of one of their schools. And this location had seen quite a bit of turmoil over the time. That was a partnership with another grandmaster and then his two sons who were also masters, and they ran the school for a period of time, but they like left in the middle of the night. Like they just took off, or at least that's what we were led to believe at that time. Obviously there was more stuff going on that we weren't privy to, but they just left. And so all of a sudden we had this school that we had to go in and fill. And I was a part of that when that happened. Like I went in there and I served in that role to try to grow the school while I was doing my other thing. And we'd pull from the other locations, and everyone was just kind of pitching in to keep the school going. Right. And there were a lot of people that left at the time. And then they finally got somebody as like a general manager of that location. And he did really great for a while. And then some things happened with him, and he had to leave as well. So that put them in turmoil again, and all these things. It made a situation from bad to worse. So this school definitely had its share, and that's the school that I was going into and taking care of. And so I remember going in there, and people are like, "Oh, please don't change it again. Please don't change it again." And I'm like, "I'm not here to change anything. I'm here to help. You know, I'm here to make things better." It's like, what feedback do you have? What would make this school better? So I left it their school, right? It was theirs. This wasn't about me. It wasn't my agenda. It's like, how do I have to come in? How can I help you? You know, so that's what I was trying to do. And I took over that school, and that was 2018, toward the end of 2018. Wow. And then 2019, we had some struggles. We had some business challenges where I didn't know like the periods and like good months, bad months, all that stuff. And it's like, oh, I didn't plan for this. I didn't know this was coming, you know. And so I learned kind of the hard way, but that really got my butt in gear, and we started getting out, networking, doing a lot of things. I had a different belief system than what I was being taught at the school. It's like, I believe I need to be outside of the school, bringing people into the school, not waiting for people to come to me. And so I was out there networking. I was talking about the school. I was presenting things. People needed to know what I was about. You know, I was out there selling me essentially, and then this opportunity for kids to learn and grow, or not even just kids, but adults. You know, adults that have gone through certain traumas, or they just need some kind of physical fitness. I'm like, gosh, Taekwondo is so great. Like, Taekwondo is great for a lot of reasons. Like, you get to be physical. You get this exercise that's hand and foot. So Taekwondo does more kicks than any other martial art. So it means way of hand and foot. So we got this full body workout. We're not doing the grappling stuff of jiu-jitsu, right? Where I did that. I wrestled in high school. I wrestled internationally. So I get that. And there's tons of injuries with that. You're manipulating joints. You're throwing people to the ground. You know, something doesn't happen right. You don't do it the right way. You don't have the right technique. People get hurt. Bones get broken. Joints dislocated. Concussions. You get a lot of injuries in that. Taekwondo, we're pretty safe for the most part. We're standing. We practice on mats. If people fall down, it's really not that hard, right? Yeah, we still get injuries, but some of that's just, you know, maybe not being warmed up enough, working on our flexibility, or really where we get most of our injuries is like sparring, or with our demo team, they're trying crazy aerial tricks, right? Things that we don't normally teach in class, right? So, yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, we're going to start wrapping this up, but is there anything else you want to start sharing, or you want to start sharing with our audience?
Yeah, so we are actually going to be moving locations here in a month. So, good thing for us, we're downsizing a little bit, which is going to help us with our overhead expenses.
Nice. Yeah.
But we're really excited for the new direction that we're going. We have a ton of support from our families, we like to do things to give back to our community. So one of the things that we get to do is like movie nights, parents' night out. So about every other month we do like a movie night for 3 hours on a Saturday evening, and parents can drop off their kids at no cost. We'll do it for free, right? If they're a student. Now, if they're not a student, they're welcome to bring guests, just $10, so not bad. But we'll have some fun games, and then we'll sit down, watch a movie, and then parents come pick up their kids. But just a nice little thank you. And then I am working on setting up like a 501c3,
Cool.
so we can start accepting some donations, because I really have a heart for people who are left behind, right? I have a heart for single parents trying to raise their kids, and they need help. They need that structure. They need that partnership, right? And they just can't afford it.
Mm-hmm.
Or they have multiple kids and they can't afford it. And I believe Taekwondo is for everyone. Mm-hmm. And so they need to, we need to receive some money for them to train. I'd love to train them for free, but that's not good for my business either.
Right.
So we get that set up, and I'm looking forward to it. You got some partnerships in the community where they want to be a part of it, that too, but that's a little bit of a process in setting it up.
That's awesome, man. Well, where can our viewers find you?
So I'm located, you can find us online. We're at springstaekwondo.com, TAEKWONDO, springstaekwondo.com. We just got our website redesign. It looks great.
Nice.
There's a way to get a hold of us on there. You can sign up for a 4-week trial for $49, no risk, or come see me. We'll do a free trial lesson. See if you want to sign up for our basic course and get a few belts, and while you're at it, So let's have some fun.
That's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much. This has been a great time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So awesome that you're doing this for the community, and this has been the COS Business Podcast. So we'll see you guys on the next one.